In aviation history, some names are remembered for their innovations, while others are quietly forgotten for far darker reasons. Behind the glossy brochures and ambitious promises, a handful of American plane manufacturers delivered more risk than reward. Their aircraft weren't just unreliable, they were unsafe, with design flaws so serious they helped doom the companies that built them. Today, we'll uncover the faulty plane makers that faded into US history. Fairchild Aircraft. Fairchild was once a trusted name in American aviation, with a heritage stretching back to the 1920s and a reputation for building military trainers and transport aircraft. But by the 1970s and 80s, the company shifted into the commuter market with the Fairchild Swearingen Metro, a 19-seat regional airliner designed to connect small towns across America. On paper, the Metro looked like an efficient workhorse, compact and relatively affordable for regional carriers. In practice, the aircraft gained a reputation that few pilots wanted to live with. Its long, narrow fuselage earned it the nickname San Antonio Sewer Pipe. Pilots complained that the cabin was noisy and cramped, and passengers often found the ride uncomfortable. More troubling were the safety concerns. The Metro's handling characteristics were unforgiving, particularly in icing conditions. Maintenance crews also reported structural fatigue in critical areas of the airframe, leading to costly inspections and unexpected repairs. Several serious accidents highlighted these flaws. In 1985, a commuter crash involving a Metro raised alarms about its stability during approach and landing. Investigations pointed toward handling issues exacerbated by design compromises. As safety incidents accumulated, operators began losing faith. At the same time, Fairchild faced mounting financial strain, unable to compete with emerging competitors offering safer and more comfortable alternatives. By 1989, Fairchild's commercial aviation branch collapsed under the weight of poor confidence and persistent safety problems. Today, a few Metros still fly in limited cargo roles, but the brand's once respected reputation is long gone. Fairchild serves as a cautionary reminder: even a historic manufacturer can vanish if safety takes a back seat to short-term innovation. Convair. Convair was born from America's post-war optimism, merging Consolidated Aircraft and Vultee in 1943. For years, it thrived on military contracts, producing bombers and transports. But the real gamble came when Convair decided to compete with Boeing and Douglas in the commercial jetliner market. Their answer was the Convair 880 and later the Convair 990 Coronado, jets marketed as the fastest airliners of their time. Speed was the selling point, and indeed, these planes were quick. The 990 even set records, but speed came at a cost. The aircraft consumed far more fuel than their rivals, making them uneconomical in a market where efficiency mattered just as much as speed. Airlines soon realized that the performance edge wasn't worth the financial drain. Worse, the aircraft carried serious engineering flaws. Cracks in the wings developed under heavy stress, and maintenance demands soared beyond expectations. Accidents deepened the reputation crisis. Multiple Convair 990s were lost in crashes tied to structural failures and handling issues, tarnishing the brand's image further. Passenger comfort also lagged behind competitors, with cramped interiors and noisy cabins turning travelers away. By the end of the 1960s, sales had all but evaporated, leaving Convair to retreat back to military projects. What could have been a bold rival to Boeing instead became one of aviation's cautionary tales. The commercial dream ended in bankruptcy, and the Convair jetliners were quietly phased out. Today, only a few examples sit in museums, symbols of ambition outpacing reliability. Convair proved that chasing the title of fastest means nothing if safety and practicality are compromised. Beechcraft Starship. In the 1980s, Beechcraft set out to create something revolutionary: the Starship, a futuristic business plane that looked like it belonged in a science fiction film. With its canard layout, pusher-prop engines, and composite airframe, the Starship promised efficiency, speed, and cutting-edge design. It was meant to redefine business aviation, outshining competitors like Cessna and Learjet. But while the concept dazzled on paper, reality told a different story. The Starship's radical design created handling quirks that unnerved even experienced pilots. Its performance never matched marketing claims, and the advanced composite structure proved incredibly difficult to repair. Unlike aluminum aircraft, which could be patched, composite damage often required entire sections to be replaced, sending maintenance costs soaring. Buyers also balked at the price. At over $6 million, the Starship was significantly more expensive than rivals with better reliability records. Certification delays and technical setbacks added to the frustration, and when the plane finally entered service, only 53 were built. Beechcraft themselves later destroyed most of the fleet to avoid long-term liability, leaving just a handful surviving today under experimental licenses. What was meant to be aviation's boldest leap forward turned into one of its most infamous failures. The Starship nearly dragged Beechcraft down with it, costing the company millions and leaving a permanent scar on its reputation. It proved that futuristic designs without reliability are nothing more than risks with wings. And believe it or not, the Starship isn't the worst failure we'll cover today. Up next, we'll look at a manufacturer whose planes weren't just expensive mistakes. They carried flaws so dangerous that regulators had to step in. Stay tuned, because what's coming next will make you wonder how some of these aircraft ever got certified. Mooney Aircraft. Mooney was known for speed. Since the 1950s, the company carved a niche producing fast, sleek, single-engine planes beloved by pilots who wanted performance without stepping up to turboprops. But under the glossy reputation, Mooney faced persistent issues that nearly destroyed it multiple times. By the 1980s, financial strain led to production shortcuts and troubling design flaws. Landing gear collapses became a recurring nightmare. Owners reported cases where gear failed to lock properly, causing belly landings and severe damage. Fuel system quirks added to the danger. Poor venting led to vapor lock and unexpected engine stoppages, particularly in hot conditions. Cabins leaked, seals wore out quickly, and corrosion crept into places it never should have been. While the aircraft delivered speed, maintenance shops frequently dreaded seeing them, calling Mooney designs high-performance headaches. The company itself didn't help. Mooney filed for bankruptcy more than once, leaving customers stranded without support or spare parts. Each resurrection came with promises of stability, only to collapse again. While devoted enthusiasts kept the brand alive, casual buyers began to view Mooney planes as financial and operational risks. Today, a loyal core of owners still flies Mooneys, but the brand's reputation is permanently scarred by decades of instability and design compromises. For many, Mooney is a reminder that speed without reliability isn't a luxury, it's a liability. And its repeated bankruptcies highlight the danger of falling in love with a company that can't keep itself airborne. Martin Aircraft. Martin Aircraft, better known for its bombers during World War II, made an ambitious pivot after the war. With commercial aviation booming, they introduced the Martin 202 and later the Martin 404, twin-engine airliners meant to compete with the likes of Douglas. On paper, they seemed like a logical step for a proven manufacturer. In practice, they turned out to be disasters. The Martin 202 was rushed to market, and critical flaws quickly showed. Cracks developed in the wings, a structural failure so severe that regulators grounded the fleet. Fatal accidents followed, with investigations pointing directly to design oversight. Instead of safety being baked into the structure, cost-cutting and rushed production left passengers exposed to deadly risks. The later 404 improved some aspects, but the damage was done. Airlines lost trust, competitors offered safer alternatives, and Martin's commercial program collapsed almost overnight. What could have been a lasting entry into passenger aviation became a black mark on the company's history. By the 1960s, Martin abandoned the commercial field entirely, retreating to military and aerospace projects. But its short-lived passenger planes became cautionary symbols. Unlike Boeing and Douglas, Martin never recovered its credibility in the commercial sector. The lesson is stark. Reputation in aviation isn't forgiving. Once passengers and airlines lose faith, no redesign or rebranding can fully repair the damage. Martin's collapse showed that even a powerhouse of wartime innovation could fail if it underestimated the stakes of civilian safety. The Havilland Comet. Though not an American manufacturer, the de Havilland Comet deserves mention because its tragic story sent shockwaves through the US industry. When the Comet entered service in 1952, it was the world's first commercial jet airliner, a technological marvel that promised to revolutionize travel. For a brief moment, it looked like the future had arrived. But within just a few years, the dream collapsed in catastrophic fashion. A series of mid-air breakups stunned the aviation world. Entire comets disintegrated during flight, killing everyone on board. Investigators discovered the root cause: square windows that concentrated stress, leading to metal fatigue around the corners. Over time, tiny cracks grew until the fuselage ripped apart under pressurization. It was a design flaw so basic it seems unthinkable today, but at the time it slipped through testing. The fallout was enormous. De Havilland redesigned the Comet with oval windows and stronger skin, but the damage to public confidence was permanent. Boeing and Douglas seized the moment, introducing the 707 and DC-8, jets that quickly dominated the skies. The Comet, once a trailblazer, faded into history as a grim reminder that innovation without thorough testing can kill. For the US market, the Comet's failures became a rallying point. Regulators tightened certification rules, manufacturers emphasized fatigue testing, and engineers never forgot how overlooked details could cost hundreds of lives. In many ways, the Comet's downfall shaped modern aviation safety more than any single American aircraft failure. But here's the twist. If the Comet had succeeded, Boeing might not have become the giant it is today. Sometimes one company's tragedy becomes another's opportunity. Piper Aircraft. Piper Aircraft was once known as the General Motors of general aviation, with its Cherokees and Cubs becoming icons of American flying. But not all of Piper's creations lived up to that golden reputation. The Piper Comanche, launched in the late 1950s as a sleek, high-performance single, was marketed as a game-changer. Unfortunately, the Comanche's story quickly spiraled into a warning about structural weakness that would haunt Piper for decades. In the early 1970s, investigators discovered a troubling pattern. Several Comanches had suffered in-flight structural failures. The culprit was the design of the wing spar, the backbone of the aircraft. Cracks formed under repeated stress, especially in older airframes, and in some tragic cases, entire wings separated mid-flight. Lawsuits followed, and Piper faced mounting pressure from regulators and owners demanding costly inspections and modifications. The crisis shook confidence in Piper's engineering. While many of its smaller trainers remained popular, the Comanche debacle cast a long shadow. Production was eventually halted, partly due to a factory flood, but the safety concerns ensured it never returned. Piper itself would survive through other models, but its reputation for reliability took a lasting hit. For pilots, the lesson was clear. Speed and performance meant little if the aircraft couldn't stand up to years of real-world use. The Comanche looked elegant on the ramp, but carried hidden risks that turned routine flights into gambles. And here's the chilling part. Piper wasn't alone in facing these dangers. As regulators tightened oversight, other manufacturers tried to cut costs in ways that put lives at risk. Coming up, we'll tie it all together with the cautionary wrap-up, where aviation's equivalent of the Bayliner showed just how quickly ambition could sink a brand. Cessna's 441 Conquest II. Cessna is a name most people associate with safe, dependable aircraft, the kind of planes that train student pilots or carry families across short hops. But even giants stumble, and for Cessna, the 441 Conquest II became one of its most notorious problem children. Released in the late 1970s, the Conquest II was meant to bridge the gap between piston twins and turboprops, offering speed and efficiency for business flyers. On paper, it looked perfect. In reality, it became a maintenance nightmare. The early Conquests suffered from serious pressurization flaws that strained fuselages and created cracking around windows and skins. Owners also reported dangerous stability issues, particularly in icing conditions where the aircraft's de-icing systems underperformed. Worse, the engines, Garrett turboprops, were notoriously maintenance-intensive. Mid-flight failures were not unheard of, leaving pilots scrambling in situations where seconds mattered. Accident reports piled up. Several crashes highlighted both design vulnerabilities and operational challenges. Insurance rates skyrocketed, and owners found themselves stuck with an aircraft that was too costly to maintain and too risky to fly confidently. By the mid-1980s, the Conquest's reputation had curdled and resale values plummeted. Cessna eventually addressed some of the flaws, but the damage was irreversible. The Conquest II remained a symbol of how even a trusted manufacturer could produce an aircraft that carried more liabilities than strengths. Many were quietly retired, while others required costly retrofits just to remain airworthy. For Cessna, the 441 wasn't just a flawed product, it was a scar. It reminded pilots and owners alike that no brand, no matter how trusted, is immune to engineering missteps. And that haunting truth set the stage for aviation's next wave of lessons in reliability. The pattern is chilling. Each company promised more than it could deliver. Each cut corners, rushed designs, or underestimated risk. And in every case, the result wasn't just bankruptcy, it was wreckage, lawsuits, lives lost, and reputations destroyed. Today, aviation is safer than ever, but only because of the lessons carved into history by these failures. The planes may be gone, the companies dissolved, but their ghosts remain in accident reports, regulatory reforms, and cautionary tales told to every new engineer. So, the next time you see a vintage aircraft gleaming on a ramp or up for sale, remember this. Not every piece of history is worth flying. Some wings weren't designed to last, and what you don't know about aviation's forgotten manufacturers could still put you at risk. Stay sharp, stay safe, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's hidden dangers. Because as you've seen today, what fades from memory doesn't always fade from the skies.